Hey, everybody. Welcome on into First and Tangent, a show by a Packers diehard for Packers, whatever level of Packer fan you are. This is the show for you. It's the show to stay informed on all the surface level things going on with the Packers, as well as some takes, some forecasts, some crazy things that I might be going on in the NFL. I am a diehard Packers fan. My name is Jake, by the way. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I've been a diehard Packers fan my entire life, to the point where it's almost become an issue for me. And every fall, it pretty much dominates my entire mental headspace. And so with this show, First and Tangent, we're going to keep the subject of the Green Bay Packers first. And then for the tangent, we're going to go away from the Packers, because even though it is pretty much everything in my life, it's probably not everything in your life, and there are bigger things going on in the world that people care about, that I care about as well. So we're just trying to keep everything in perspective. Maybe you'll get to know me, I'll get to know y'all a little bit, and no matter how far this goes, no matter what this does, if it ever does anything, we're happy to have you here, and go Pat go. And so first, for this first episode, I just want to take a look at the entire scope, the entire landscape of what the Packers look like ending last year, heading into this year, general vibes for the team, what the roster looks like, so on and so forth. And so at the end of last year, obviously a disappointing finish to the season. I don't think that it was really surprising that the Packers lost in the wild card to the Eagles. It's not surprising that they lost to the Eagles at all. They were clearly the best team last year. But I don't really think that a ton of Packers fans expected more in the playoffs. I think the first year with Jordan Love as the quarterback, we overperformed a little bit, made it to the divisional round. And then as the year shook out, as injuries continued, obviously Jordan Love got injured in Brazil at the first game of the year, and the knee was really hurting his mobility as the year progressed, and Malik Willis was able to step in and get a couple wins for us, and he's the reason why we made the playoffs. But there were just a lot of things not working in the Packers' favor last year. Jordan Love getting injured first game of the year definitely didn't help. Despite that, I think he still had a very solid year. He finished with solid numbers, almost 3,400 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, interceptions at 11, so obviously that's not ideal, and if we want Jordan Love to take the next step, he'll need to work on those interceptions. I think we were also just so blessed with having Aaron Rodgers at quarterback for a decade and a half that a quarterback throwing double-digit interceptions in a single season is almost unfounded territory. And so 11, yeah, we'd like that number to be a little bit lower, but he's also a gunslinger, which we like and we really enjoy. In the 2 years that Jordan Love has been a starting quarterback in Green Bay, he leads the NFL in completions over 20 yards, I think by a fairly wide margin. And our receivers did not perform up to snuff last year, pardon me. Listen, I love the Packers receivers. I love who we had last year, and I'll obviously touch on the major addition this year, but I'm a Michigan State football fan. I love Jaden Reed. He is not playing well enough to be our number 2 wide receiver that I think that all the Packers fans envision that he can be after Matthew Golden ascends. He was incredible at Michigan State, and Peyton Thorne was throwing him the ball. We had Keon Coleman, Kenneth Walker, and Jaden Reed on the same field at the same time, and we didn't win 6 games. That's how bad our quarterback was, and Jaden Reed was still able to catch balls. You go back to, what was that, sophomore year? When we went to his sophomore year, when Michigan State went to the Peach Bowl, he was catching jump balls over Penn State. He was catching jump balls over the Pitt DBs. He has the pedigree, I should say, and the ability. He's shown flashes to be a sure-handed, strong, legit receiver. And he led the NFL in drop percentage last year. And that is just not acceptable. That's not acceptable, and he realizes that. And so hopefully he was best friends with the Jugs machine in the offseason. Our other guy who had all the drops last year. Dontavian Wicks, he had the second highest drop percentage in the NFL last year. Obviously unacceptable. You look at his separation and what he's able to do in getting free from defenders. He's got all the traits in the world, all the footwork, all the natural ability to be an insane difference maker, an incredible wide receiver 3, if that's the way everything shakes out. I know that LaFleur doesn't really care about titles and just wants players to perform. But if he ends up in like that wide receiver 3 slot, he would be the most effective wide receiver 3 in the NFL if he could just catch the ball. Christian Watson, he's obviously got all the mental skills, or the physical skills in the world. Mental as well. I do really like him, but he just keeps getting injured, and it's a bummer. And he was super effective when he played last year, but we need to see if he's taking that next step, if he's taking the Packers, drafting Matthew Golden in the first round as a challenge, which hopefully he does. And the rising tide lifts all boats in this situation, and the challenge just creates diamonds. No pressure, no diamonds. We know that. Romeo Doubs, similar to Christian Watson, I think. He was injured last year. I don't want to say similar to Christian Watson because they're obviously super different players, but he hasn't really ascended. And he's not the fastest guy. He's not the quickest guy, but he's got super sure hands when he's on the field. But he was, some concussions last year, and there were question marks over whether he wanted to be on the team or not. That was a little bit of a weird storyline last season. So we've got guys, we've got like a platoon of wide receivers. We had Bo Melton last year on offense. Now he moved over to defense. Malik Heath, again, he's shown flashes. He caught an awesome catch to almost give the Packers a win against the Giants a couple of years ago. That was when we lost to Tommy DeVito. Sick game. But again, we haven't had a dude ascend, and Jordan Love is still putting up those numbers, and he's still leading the NFL in downfield passing. Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave are massive helps in the downfield passing attack and picking up yards after catch, especially Tucker Kraft. But we haven't had that legit number one wide receiver. And obviously, in the offseason, Matt LaFleur and Goody, they looked at the drops and they looked at the receiver core, and they liked the guys as well. We didn't get rid of anyone, but they brought in a purebred, legit, future number one wide receiver. Matthew Golden, it is incredible that he lasted for the Packers to be drafting. If Quinn Ewers wasn't his quarterback the entire season, and if Sark used him correctly at Texas, this dude would have gone in the top 10. That's how insane he's been in training camp. He is running by players every single practice, every single joint practice. He's beating guys on the inside with slant routes. His footwork is insane, and his top-end speed, 4.29. There aren't very many, if at all, cornerbacks in the NFL that can catch up with his top-end speed. His hands have been very, very solid so far in training camp based off of the videos on Twitter that I've seen. Obviously, this is all with a grain of salt, and this is just projections, but everything that I've seen about Matthew Golden and the attitude that he brings, there was one video circling the internet that shows that Matthew Golden brings a little bit of a different attitude than the other Packers receivers. That's an if you know, you know on the attitude video. But I'm over the moon that we drafted a wide receiver in the first round. We have another tool at Jordan Love's disposal. He's already proven that he can be an effective downfield passer even when our wide receivers are not doing him any favors, catching contested balls or catching open balls for that matter. Pause. So, yeah, really, really excited about Matthew Golden as our number one wide receiver. I think that Jordan Love is going to step up in a big way, return to those 2022 or 2023 numbers. Pardon. Where is the time going? His first year as a starter, I think that he's going to continue to elevate his game as a downfield passer. In these videos that we're seeing in training camp, he's not throwing off his back foot. He's stepping in. He's not floating the ball out there, waiting for a defensive back to undercut it. He's leading wide receivers, throwing the ball in a position where only their outstretched arms can catch it. I'm very, very excited for this season for Jordan Love and to see what he can do. A little bit concerned about the thumb. Not really, but I just whenever a hand gets injured, it's never the most fun thing, especially because, throwing motion obviously goes up with two hands. So if that hand is a little bit puffy or feels a little bit off, that's not the best thing to have for your starting quarterback as you're going into a season that he's not 100%. But it's not a major concern. And you can tell that he is different this year. He's being more vocal in interviews. He's being more vocal in practice clips. Guys are talking about him, not that they didn't hold him in high esteem before, but now it's like third year in the system, married in the offseason, shout out. No other things to worry about. It's go time. He feels it. The Packers feel it. And I think a lot of the fans feel it as well. And that's why I'm doing this thing, to be honest, just because I'm excited to document the Packers' journey in the 2025-2026 season. We're going to have a very, very exciting offense, reminiscent of the Sean McVay teams. Obviously, Matt LaFleur is in the same coaching tree where we are running and gunning and spreading the ball out to as many receivers as possible, hopefully with sure hands. And we've got Josh Jacobs as an absolute bruiser in the backfield. Josh Jacobs and Matt LaFleur's offense, I think that we saw just the beginning of what he was capable of last year. It's a pretty complex run game. We saw a lot of what we saw Matt LaFleur definitely get into his bag when Jordan Love got injured last year and when Malik Willis had to step up. And we saw firsthand, us as Packers fans, we've known it for a while, but just how good of a coach Matt LaFleur is and how good he is at putting his players in positions to succeed and not asking Malik Willis to do too much, but putting him in plays and sets where guys are going to be open, first read, second read, tuck it and run if those aren't open. And it was very, very effective. And so that ability that Matt LaFleur has shown us repeatedly with this Jordan Love offense transitioning away from the Aaron Rodgers audible at the line of scrimmage every single play to now we're actually getting into Matt LaFleur's full bag, and this is his offense, and he wants to run to set up the pass, and I think that we've got the perfect running back to do that with Josh Jacobs. He's got an absolute attitude. He is a pure leader on the field, not afraid to jar at the opposing team. And also just an incredible teammate. Anytime anyone is injured, he's running over to pick them up. He's running over to pray with them. And just a great, great locker room guy. Came in so perfectly. I know that all of the Green Bay fans love Aaron Jones and hold him in incredibly high regard. But if there's one person who could have filled Aaron Jones's shoes and be embraced by fans and the organization alike, I think it's Josh Jacobs. And so can't wait for year 2 Josh Jacobs. If Marshawn Lloyd is healthy, obviously major if, he was able to show freak athleticism at USC. We've seen him in training camp show freak athleticism, and then he caught a 32-yard wheel route and immediately got injured. And so if he's able to be healthy and we can have a 1-2 punch or like a 1-4 punch, and he just, runs the ball a couple times every few possessions, that would be a major, major lift and provide a little bit of more shiftiness than, not that Josh Jacobs isn't shifty, just look at that juke that he had against the Dolphins last year for your answer on whether or not he's shifty. But Marshawn Lloyd, he's twitchy and he's different from other running backs that the Packers have. So if Marshawn Lloyd is healthy and if he can play, I love our backfield. So just to recap, love our backfield. Our wide receivers, if Matthew Golden is able to ascend, our wide receivers are going to be very, very strong. Our quarterback, I'm all in on Jordan Love. I think that all of the Packers are in on Jordan Love. Obviously, the Goody and the people who sign paychecks are all in on Jordan Love as well. And that just leaves us, I'll touch on our tight ends as well. Tucker Kraft, I think that he just signed a deal with Kraft Cheese, so shout out to him. Weirdly, strangely flying under the radar in national circles. In every top tight end list I've seen, I'm not seeing Tucker Kraft included in any of them. He's shown what he's able to do after the catch, where he will not get taken down by the first defender. He'll probably not get taken down by the second defender. And then when he finally gets taken down, he'll do a kip up. He's just a freak athlete, loves crushing beers, loves fishing, loves ripping cigs. And he is just an incredible blocker and catcher. And his balance is next level. So Tucker Kraft, he will ascend in a big way. I think that he's going to end the season as a top 5 tight end in the NFL. His ability to block, catch, and run after the catch is a pretty fierce and deadly combination. It's sort of Gronk-esque. He's not as big as Gronk. I think that he might have better balance than Gronk, though. Gronk could truck people. Tucker Kraft, he is able to stay in bounds on the sidelines. He's able to toe tap. He is just a very good athlete. He looks like a ballerina out on the field, but he'll also punch you in the face. So I'm a big believer in Tucker Kraft. Common theme, I know I'm a big believer in everything on this team. Again, that's why I'm doing this. So after Tucker Kraft, though, Luke Musgrave. Let's not forget about Luke Musgrave. I know that no one has, but Luke Musgrave, drafted as a second round out of Oregon State a couple of years ago, lacerated his kidney during a game last year and stayed in to finish the possession. So he's wired differently, and he's a dog, but he has been injured for a lot of his time in Green Bay. He's also not quite ascended to that yak ability that Tucker Kraft has. It's a recurring theme that Packers fans know all too well, that if Luke Musgrave catches the ball, he's probably going to fall down right after that. And I don't think it's because he's hiding from contact or anything like that. I just think that he's not necessarily super comfortable in his body. And not that he's not confident. He's just it's sort of like a baby deer, where he catches the ball and his eyes go up and his hands are up and he's out of his equilibrium is thrown off a little bit and he gets thrown off orbit and he just happens to fall down. And that's what happens. And it's a bummer. Hopefully he can work on it. I know that he has been much improved. This has been reported in training camp from some insiders or reporters that his pass or his run defense or run blocking, has greatly improved. And I guess that is good, but that's not what we drafted him for. We drafted him as a good athlete tight end who has a very high top speed that can be a mismatch against linebackers and safeties. He's a guy who we want to throw down the seam and stretch the field with his big frame and his high top end speed. So awesome that he's improved as a run blocker, but we have Tucker Kraft. We already have a dude who's not afraid to get his nose dirty. You can be our stallion who gets split out and beats the undersized guy that's guarding you and be a 500, 600 yard receiver. I think that would be a massive win for the Packers. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that's a possibility. 30 yards a game out of Luke Musgrave. Yeah, I think that he can definitely break open the seam at least one time a game. So if Luke Musgrave is 500 yards, I wouldn't be super shocked, and he's by far a tight end too. So there's sort of our skill players, and then offensive line. Just pumped that we don't have Josh Myers anymore. He was obviously our weakest link on the offensive line last year. The coaching staff was clearly rope-a-doping him, or not necessarily rope-a-doping him, but just trying to give him confidence by continuously saying, this is Josh Myers' best year in the NFL. We're so happy he couldn't be doing more. Maybe he couldn't be doing more, but obviously what he was doing wasn't enough. And so we're sliding over Elton Jenkins from left guard into center, former Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and hopefully that middle of the line will really be strong. We brought in Aaron Banks in the offseason. Rasheed Walker's still at left tackle. Sean Ryan is still at our right guard. And then Zach Tom, we just signed to a big contract at right tackle. So our offensive line, right now, I don't see any weak links. We've seen all these guys, well, not Aaron Banks, but if we brought him in, I don't know much about him, honestly. But Goody brought him in, and he's starting, so I feel confident. And the other four guys we know a lot about. After them, things get kind of shaky. Anthony Belton in that preseason game against the Colts. Dude, 5 penalties in the first half? That's not good. I know that you're a huge body and elite in run blocking, but continuously going off sides, having a personal foul, having a holding, having a couple false starts, all in the first half, probably not great. Jordan Morgan, first-round draft pick last year. Who knows, because he hardly played. I think it was last year. He is competing against Rasheed Walker for that left tackle position. I think that he's going to be the sixth man. And then Jacob Monk, he's rookie out of Duke. Don't really know much about him, but it looks like those are our top 8 offensive linemen. I think our top 5 are solid, but any injuries, and obviously we're going to accrue them throughout the year. That's just the way that football goes. Legs are flying around in the trenches. Guys are going to go down. We need people to fill in. And I don't know how confident I am in those guys that are filling in. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. Our offense as a whole, though, was I felt like it was strong last year. I think that our receivers are going to get the message that the drop rate that we had last year was unacceptable, that they were hitting the jugs machine in the offseason, they were working out with Jordan Love in the offseason, they were working with the trainers in the offseason, and that their hands will be improved. And if not, we've got a purebred on the outside, Matthew Golden, 4.2940, and I'm confident with him just running 9 routes the entire game and letting Jordan Love throw it up there until the rest of the receivers figure it out. Matthew Golden's been putting on a show in training camp. Let him put on a show in regular season, and I would be totally fine with that. That's a look at the offense. Love Matt LaFleur's play calling. Again, him elevating his play calling and his performance when Jordan Love went out last year and we had to scramble a little bit and literally revitalize Malik Willis's career speaks incredible volumes to what he's capable of. And I think that now, third year in the system, it's only going to be more impressive. I don't care about Adam Stenavich as an offensive coordinator. He doesn't call the plays. Matt LaFleur, this is your offense. Jordan Love, go run it. We've got the guys for you. Let's make it happen. And I believe that they will. And I think that our offense is going to be very, very strong. Let's move on to our defense. So the one key player that we lost this offseason is Jair Alexander. Yeah, that's a big hole to try to fill. And he's got some legendary moments for the Packers. His interception against the Cowboys, incredible. He had 2 interceptions against Tom Brady in the NFC Championship game. If only the refs called a fair game, that would have been all time in Packers lore. Him grittying on Justin Jefferson. I was at that game. All time moment. Him running up to the reporter saying the pack is back. Yeah. He's all-time character, but the dude just couldn't stay healthy. So, yeah, it sucks that Ja Mula is no longer on the Packers, but he only played in parts of 7 games the past 2 seasons. He's only defended 12 passes in the past 2 seasons, 2 interceptions in the past 2 seasons. Both of those were last year. And before that, he played in 16 games 3 years ago, but he's had recurring injuries issues his entire career, which is a bummer because when he's on the field, he's as shut down as anyone in the NFL. I put him up there with like Pat Surtain. That's how good I think that Jair Alexander is, but we just had to move on from him. So I wish him nothing but the best in Baltimore, and we love you, Jair, but we had to move on. I thought that when we were moving on, that meant that we were going to draft a CB1 or trade for a CB1. We traded for a nickel and Nate Hobbs, and we're sticking with Keyshawn Nixon as our cornerback 1 and Carrington Valentine as our cornerback 2. I don't know how that's going to work out. I think that Keyshawn Nixon is an absolute dog. I think that he plays similarly to Tucker Kraft in the sense that he will get his nose dirty. He will jaw at the other team, and the guy matched up against him will know everything about him by the end of the game. But he's not a lockdown corner. He intercepted Patrick Mahomes in Lambeau a couple of years ago, but are we really confident that Jair Alexander is going to be able to shut down Justin Jefferson twice and DJ Moore twice and Amon-Ra St. Brown twice? I don't think that I am, to be honest with you. Carrington Valentine, I think that he's another one of those guys who's ascending. A lot of lasting memories of him last year was getting stiff-armed into oblivion by Dallas Goedert in the wild card game. That's fair. He did get absolutely destroyed. But also, his PFF grade was very solid. He is sticky to the receiver. He is very solid in pass coverage. He's a little bit undersized and a little bit skinny. Hopefully at the weight room in the offseason. I don't think that he wanted that to be the lasting memory of his season last year, especially when he had such an incredible training camp where everyone was hyping him up, and then that's the way that it ended. But we don't need to harp on that too much. Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon and Nate Hobbs, those are our cornerbacks, though. Nate Hobbs seems like he is a dog similar to Keyshawn Nixon, accidentally hurting a couple Packers just by being aggressive in training camp. But excited to see what he can do. Don't really know too much about him, but the Packers believe in him. If Jeff Hafley thinks that he's a player who can play on this defense, I am all the way bought in on Jeff Hafley, so whatever he says goes in my book, and let's see what Nate Hobbs can do. The reason why I'm not insanely freaking out about our cornerbacks is just because of how good our safeties are. We saw Xavier McKinney last year lead the NFL in interceptions, I believe. If he didn't lead the NFL, he got one in like the first 7 games of the season last year. He is an absolute game changer. Quarterbacks throw it away from him. So if he can cover a third of the field and Carrington can cover the other third of the field, Keyshawn Nixon only needs to worry about a third of the field, and I'm fine with that. He floats. He reads quarterbacks' eyes. He knows where the receiver is going before the receiver goes there, and he's got elite hands. So Xavier McKinney, again, I'm thinking another all-pro year. There's no reason to think why he's going to slow down. Second year in Jeff Hafley's system. The pass rush is only going to get better in front of him. Maybe the quarterback's going to try to test the corners a little bit more because they don't see Jair Alexander out on the outside. And that's when Xavier McKinney's going to come in, swoop off the pass, and insane verbiage there. Intercept the pass and be a major game changer for the Packers. So that's what the expectation is out of free safety. And then Evan Williams at strong safety. This dude loves playing at all 3 levels. He loves playing near the line of scrimmage. He loves playing curl depth, and then he loves playing deep as well. not as much of a ball hawk as Xavier McKinney is. That's because no one in the NFL is as much of a ball hawk as Xavier McKinney, but he is exceptional in run support, loves getting his nose dirty, loves hitting the running back, and loves helping out on TFLs with our freak athletic linebackers, Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker. So safeties, Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams lessen the blow of losing Jair Alexander, and Jeff Hafley really preaches attack, and go 100%. And these players on this defense, they are all explosive, athletic players at every position, no matter what size they are. They are explosive, they are athletic, and that works perfectly for Jeff Hafley's style of defense. Our linebackers, Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper, it's this simple. They are the most athletic linebacker tandem in the NFL. Bar none. You look at all the measurables, you look at all the non-measurables, whatever those are, they're the most athletic. Edgerrin Cooper is going to be an all-pro this year. Quay Walker got drafted out of Georgia. We know everything that we need to know about Quay Walker as Packers fans. I don't think that he's going to make the next step that we all thought that he was going to be able to coming out of Georgia as a rookie. But he is a very serviceable, very athletic middle linebacker that can help out in run support and pass coverage. So I don't think he's going to make the next step that Edgerrin Cooper is going to. But those two as a 1-2 punch with Evan Williams screaming down the safety slot is going to be very dangerous for opposing run games. And our defensive line. So the Packers' defensive line, the big question mark I think that a lot of people have is whether or not Lucas Van Ness is going to take that next step. I think that only time will tell. All the reports are saying that he's been very, very effective in training camp and in joint practices with the Colts and with the Seahawks. However, we won't know until the game actually starts. He was drafted to be a project, which I sort of disagree with that philosophy of drafting a project in the first round, especially when we had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and we never drafted a wide receiver for him. But maybe that's a different story for a different time. But drafted as a project, this is now his third year, and he needs to make the leap. He needs to make a similar leap in performance that Rashawn Gary did, and be a real difference maker for this defensive line. Him and Rashawn Gary can be a very deadly 1-2 punch. I love Carl Brooks, not as a starter, but he's a guy who's always making plays behind the line of scrimmage, even in his limited opportunities last season. And Kenny Clark needs to return to his Pro Bowl form as well. So Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, if they return to their Pro Bowl form and Lucas Van Ness makes the leap, despite our deficiencies at cornerback, I think that every other position group is very, very strong for the Packers defense. With Jeff Hafley preaching aggressiveness and preaching going 100% and not worrying about mistakes as long as you're going 100%. And I think that philosophy fits perfectly with the style of player that we have on the defense. Guys who don't like to think too much, that just want to get in the action and want to play ball. I think that our defense was solid last year and will be even better this year. I feel very lucky that Jeff Hafley is our defensive coordinator again this year. His ability to elevate what has always been a mediocre and beyond middling Packers defense into a game-changing defense that caused turnovers and got after the passer and really was disruptive to the other team. If he's able to do that again this year, I think that he'll probably end up being a head coach somewhere, but hopefully we add another trophy to the Lombardi case after this year, and so he can go on his way, on his merry way. Offense covered, defense covered, special teams I'll cover real quickly. Brandon McManus, fully bought in on. We don't have to go through the kicker carousel anymore. We don't have to go through the Anders Carlson experiment anymore. Brandon McManus is our kicker. He's been effective in training camp. I don't like that the Packers brought in an Irish kicker named Brandon McNamee, who played in the preseason game against the Colts, because that really confused me because I wasn't really paying attention. So I was like, what the heck is going on with McManus? Brandon McManus, but it was McNamee. So let's get the Irish dude off the team. I understand that it might be a nice story, but this is a serious football team, and we're trying to win a Super Bowl. And so give the kicker more reps because special teams have crushed us in the playoffs in the past. So give the kicker more reps in game scenarios. No more McNamee. Rich Bisaccia, if that was your call to bring in McNamee, dude, what the heck? Earn your paycheck. You're the highest paid special teams coach in the NFL, and our special teams have been not good since you joined the Packers. Special teams are the reason why we lost in the playoffs against the 49ers. Blocked punt, awesome. Missed field goal, awesome. Like, earn your paycheck. Do something creative. Something more creative than bringing in an Irish-born punter. Because you're the highest paid special teams coordinator in the NFL. And I don't need to say too much more than that. Earn the paycheck. Don't let our punters be bad. Don't let our kickers be bad. That's sort of my holistic state of the Packers, if you will, heading into this season. I feel very strongly about our offense. I feel pretty strongly about our defense. I feel moderately strongly about our special teams. I think that Matt LaFleur is a top 5 coach in the NFL. I think Jeff Hafley is a top 5 defensive coordinator in the NFL. And I think another year in the system for everyone is only going to elevate play. We shouldn't see a regression at any position this season. You might say cornerback. I counter by saying that Jair Alexander was hardly on the field when he was on the team. So I'm expecting big things from the Packers this year. I think that we can win the division. I think that we can make a run at the Super Bowl. I might do a season prediction later, but those are my general thoughts as we head into 2025, 2026. And yeah, let me know what you think. Go Pack, go.
Under the direction of Caleb Haney. On 3rd down and 5, pressure, pass is picked off, and who is it? Big B.J. Raji for the touchdown.
Welcome on back into First and Tangent. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You've reached the tangent section. But first, before the tangent, I want to give a quick shout out to Blake Bortles. So, shameless plug, Packers jersey, Blake Bortles. Packers training camp legend. I didn't say that in the first part. Hopefully when I turned around, that was all appropriate and kosher. I will edit if not. But shout out Blake Bortles. That's the Packers jersey that I'm wearing today. Number 5. Training camp legend. So I know that I said that the tangent was going to be anything going on in the world every episode, but obviously this is the first episode, and quite frankly, if you've made it this far, you probably know who I am, but if somehow you found this episode and you don't know who I am, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on what gives me the reason to talk about the Packers. I grew up a diehard Packers fan, luckily, even though I'm from West Michigan. My dad was a Packers fan. He grew up in Traverse City, and so he got the Green Bay radio station across the lake in Lake Michigan. And so he was a Packers fan, and luckily I was able to inherit that fandom, even though all my friends growing up were Lions fans. So was able to laugh in all their faces at the 0-16 season, and now they're having a little bit of payback, recently at least, but still no Super Bowl. and grew up just a diehard Packers fan. My first sports-related memory, I don't remember off the top of my head when this happened, so this might be me admitting something embarrassing right now. But one of my first memories, period, that I remember is celebrating the Al Harris walk-off touchdown against the Seahawks in the playoffs when Matt Hasselbeck said, "We'll take the ball and we're going to score." And then Al Harris said, not so fast, my friend. And Matt Hasselbeck didn't throw the ball so fast, and Al Harris picked it off, waltzed in the end zone, and led the Packers to the next round of the playoffs. I remember jumping up and down in my living room with my parents and my brother, celebrating, yelling, "Go Pack, go," being swept up in the emotion of just a beautiful game, the ultimate team sport, in my opinion. And I've been a diehard ever since. When I say diehard, I mean like when Brett Favre announced that he was retiring 3 years in a row. I was just crying every year. I've got Brett Favre Sports Illustrated's on my wall in my apartment. I'm not sure how appropriate it is to say that or how appropriate it is to have them in such a prime position, but hey, it's a man cave, and those are the covers that I have. So what are you going to do about it? Send me some different ones if you want me to display some different ones. But grew up playing all sports. Baseball was probably my favorite sport, really, growing up. And then as time progressed, and I wasn't as good at baseball as I was at football. Football took over, and it's been in that number one prime slot ever since. As I mentioned, I grew up in West Michigan. I went to college in South Central Michigan at Hillsdale College, where I studied marketing and journalism. While at Hillsdale, I did some work at the local radio station as well as the on-campus radio station. I had an internship in New York City for Barstool Sports for a couple of summers, and couldn't really hack it in the Big Apple. It was a little bit too big for me, but still love sports nonetheless, and happy to maybe have a little foray back into sports media, whatever that looks like at this capacity from my apartment. So after graduation from Hillsdale, I then moved to Madison, Wisconsin. Graduated during COVID, or graduated in 2020, so that was sick. Moving to a brand new city where you don't know anyone and the entire city is shut down. And if you try to meet anyone, you almost get shunned for it. But nonetheless, Madison was incredible because I got to be surrounded by Packers fans. And even though everyone was wearing their mask on Sundays, they still had the green and gold on, and that made me feel at home even if I couldn't see their smiling faces. Also, just being able to go to any grocery store and get elite cheese curds, an unprecedented experience that has definitely done immeasurable damage to my bowels and my innards. But a spectacular experience that I wouldn't trade it for the world, nonetheless. After Madison, Wisconsin, I lived there for about a year and a half. Then I moved to the north side of Chicago, and getting surrounded by Bears fans, was able to actually attend Jordan Love's second career start. First start as the official starter. That was obviously in Soldier Field. He threw 3 passing touchdowns, 2 of them to Romeo Doubs, one of them on a nice little angle route to Aaron Jones that he took like 50 yards up the middle of the field and then pulled a hammy. So that was a great way to sort of celebrate moving to Chicago and getting to be a part of that experience. But being surrounded by Bears fans was just too much for me to take. So I had to get out of there. Now I live in St. Louis, where there aren't any football teams, and I can just be all Packers all the time and not worry about any other naysayers. That's obviously not the reason I moved for different jobs, but I'm in St. Louis now, loving it. Hoping to convert some former Rams fans and preach them the gospel of Lombardi, as it were. And since moving here, I got a nice little kitty cat, and it's just me and her. She's named Cleo. You might see her in future episodes and future issues. And it's me and her pretty much crushing it from this studio apartment in the heart of St. Louis. and we will bring you all of the... I'm not even going to say that. We're going to be bringing you some hard-hitting Packers news this season. I'm going to try to record about once a week, give you my thoughts on the upcoming game, on the previous game. I know that we're in preseason right now, so as we get ready for the first game against the Lions? Yes, first game against the Lions, which I do like us to win that, even though I think the Lions are going to be really tough, and we're going to be fighting for them for the division crown. But us catching them in week 1, I think is huge because they lost both their coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. So Ben Johnson, wonderkin, and I don't think that he's going to be as successful in Chicago as he was in Detroit because Caleb Williams is a way different type of quarterback than Jared Goff is. We can save this for a different time and for a different date. But us having the Lions in week 1, I like us to win as long as everyone is healthy going into the game. But I will do a full preview of that in a future episode. And for now, my closing thoughts are thank you very much for listening to episode 1 of First and Tangent. I hope that you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, do all those things on social media that I think will help, that I know will help an algorithm, but this will not be big enough to hit an algorithm. Just looking to get some thoughts off and get some Packers takes off. If you think that some of my takes are insane, I played football in high school and have 4 diagnosed concussions, so we're just going to blame it on those. And if you agree with me, then you're smart and you're correct. And I hope that you enjoyed, and we're going to get smoother in the future, I promise. I'm just getting back in the saddle of having a mic in my hand, and I'm just going to end it there. Episode 1, First and Tangent, in the books.